मैं सुन नहीं रहा हूँ
जोड़ लगाए
अरे 2 की पावर n वाली सब S2 लिख लो S2 is equal to 3 by S2
मैं वैसे सिलेक्ट आता हूँ n का और कोई फंक्शन उसकी वैल्यू एक चार वैल्यू आठ वैल्यू नहीं खुली है शायद हमें थोड़ी वैल्यू सिंगल n लेना है n
कितने बताया कुछ
अरे कैसे अगर हमें ये अगर मतलब ऐसा फंक्शन बना रहा हूँ n फंक्शन बना रहा हूँ बेसिकली वैल्यू अगर वैल्यू 2 है अगर वैल्यू 3/2 है तो मुझे बहुत सारे मतलब n स्क्वायर इसमें करना है n का कुछ भी बना लेना अगर यही बनना है एग्जैक्टली
ये तो बस एक तरीका है तुम बस n को न्यूमरेटर में रखना ताकि तुम बस इनमें दिखा दे कि डाइवर्जिंग है तो तुमने n की पावर न्यूमरेटर में ज्यादा लिखी तो तुम ऐसा कोई भी सब्सिट्यूट दिखा दो जो डाइवर्ज कर रहा है हाँ क्योंकि उससे आ रहा था कि n न्यूमरेटर में डाइवर्ज कर रहा है और जीपी सब्सिट्यूट कर रहा है क्या है कि
नैनो स्केल स्टडी कन्वर्टिंग हो जाए कन्वर्टिंग हो जाए उसके लिए बाकी सब केस डाइवर्जन होती है अभी सारे केस में
बाकी सब के
कौन सा क्लास
सारे
बोलो सही यार डेलिकेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट है मतलब इतना डेलिकेट है मैं तो 6:30 पे
अभी तो पहले करेगा फिर एएम के
करोड़ों ने छोड़ूंगा फिर एएम से प्रॉपर्टी होगा और फिर क्या बोलते हैं अलग-अलग कंडीशन तो बस ऐसे मॉडल तो बस है ना हां मूवी जैसे लग रही है ये तो लग कट के सेंसर को कट किया था
इसके भी चल नहीं रहा
ये मीटिंग मेरा चल रहा है आप परफेक्ट
इसने तो शायद अभी पहले ही ले लिया लास्ट
तेरा भी है हाँ जी तेरा सरप्राइज था
आ जाएंगे
ये तो आते ही हम चल रहे हैं मैं आया
चल एक और अगर आपके तो क्लास नहीं आता तो सरप्राइज यूज तो मैं हो ही जाता ये सरप्राइज नहीं चाहिए तुमने अभी तक पेपर भी लीक नहीं किया
आविष्कार झाली का
नहीं किया आविष्कार ने किया
आविष्कार किसके साथ थे सुरेश ने करना
ये आविष्कार को लेट होते हैं भाई नहीं बारिश कर रहे हैं
स्विंग नहीं करना तो मारता है
वो चला एक महीने बाद मेडिसिन लेकर सकते हैं
मैं मेरी वीकली रिपोर्ट होती है तो पता है
तुम्हारे ज़्यादा सबसे ज़्यादा एनर्जी तुम बोले तो काम नहीं लगता मैंने चल ही रहा है काम तब से नाम बोल दी कुछ तो काम दिखाना हमने सिमुलेशन रन
कौन सी ओ यार
नाम से मेरे व्हाट्सएप पे काम पे बहुत लेट हो गया मैं रोज मैसेज मतलब रोज तो अभी तो कम हो गया पहले लेट हो गया
किस चीज़ के रिगार्डिंग
प्रोजेक्ट
कि काम करो
क्या काम अभी तो नहीं अभी मैंने बता दिया ना कि ठीक है मेरे पास भेज दे कीवर्ड्स का भी
तेरे सिमुलेशन भी होता है बढ़िया रहता है अच्छा रहता है
मतलब ये बट इनपुट फाइल में भी
तो फिर अभी भी नहीं होता है डाल के सिमुलेशन वाला बहुत सारा बहुत चेंज रहता है चैट जीपीटी तो भाई यार कोड लिखोगे फोर ले लो ज़्यादा अगर जीपीटी
नहीं कर पाता चैट जीपीटी तो समझ नहीं आता हम क्या कर रहे हैं
कर लेते हैं फिर वही समझाना पड़ेगा ऐसे डालने थोड़ा बस लिंक कर गलत करके करेंगे देखना सही कुछ ना कुछ दे देगा वर्क के तो
भविष्य में मुझे पता था इसलिए कर भाई सही था फिर घूम के
Good morning, everyone. So, any questions on the assignments while I set it up? कोई है क्वेश्चन? ग्रुप डिसाइड किए? Quiz, yes. Okay, let me write an email then. So that it's on record. I don't want students coming in and saying, okay. नहीं बताया. Please check your email if you've gotten quiz on Tuesday notification. I just emailed. Any questions so far on what is being taught? So I'll upload these slides. I think I've already uploaded the slides. So only a few proxies are left. We've talked about what we see in sediments. We've talked about what we see in ice cores. Right? Yeah? We've talked about what we do with tree rings. What else? Any other proxy that we've done on archive? Huh? What else? What else do you remember? So the sediments में कैसे कर सकते हैं? What can you use in sediments? What can you do in sediments? And what sort of sediments? What options हैं? Okay. So बहुत options हैं in sediments. We can name a few. What do you find in sediments? So if I were to you've been regular in class. What's your name? Anuj. Anuj, can you tell me something about how, let's say I want to reconstruct temperature and precipitation of a place, and this is somewhere in Bangalore. Say, you're from Bangalore, right? So somewhere around Bangalore. So I want to know how the temperature and also precipitation has changed around that region for the last 2000 years.
One is pollen.
Pollen.
So based on pollen content in the soil, we know what type of trees to grow.
Right, vegetation.
Based on that, we can say how much
Right, right. So one is pollen. So that is vegetation that you can reconstruct. Through vegetation, you would know what sort of environmental conditions would have been in the past when these were, getting accumulated in those sediment layers. Okay. One is pollen. And kuch aur, anything else?
Lakes.
Huh?
Lakes.
Lakes. You can look at lakes. What would you look at in lake sediment?
We'll do the soil.
Okay.
Analyze it as per the test.
Right. What would you analyze in these?
The minerals present in it.
You can do that, yes. Yeah, you can do that. So that will tell you what sort of chemistry was undergoing. Was it too humid or was it too, so if it was humid and temperatures are warmer, there will be more weathering, bringing in more sort of elements that you're talking about. So different minerals into the lake basin and getting deposited. So every layer would tell you some different, some history of climate of that region, depending on what were the temperature and precipitation like. Yeah, I mean you can also use shells. I've been talking about carbonate. Nobody talked about carbonates. So carbonate mineral is you know it's very it's ubiquitous in the sense that you know it's in lakes in the form of shells, it's in oceans in the form of again shells. Speleothem. So speleothems are what? Those stalactites, stalagmite cave, right? So those are made up of carbonates. So in carbonates, you can use the oxygen isotopes because that when carbonate is forming, whether it's in the shells which are living in lake water or oceans, or these kind of you know structures in the cave, those carbonate is taking their oxygen from the water, which is basically falling and then you know either a form of lake water or takes it's a part of lake water or ocean water, or in the case of speleothem, that water is like you know trickling down and then it that oxygen gets incorporated into the carbonate that is formed in the caves. Now that we've talked about oxygen isotopes a little bit and how the oxygen isotope changes the ratio of oxygen isotopes 16, 17, 18. It changes when it goes from one state to another. I will maybe talk about a little bit on oxygen isotopes because I think it's relevant. So let me just pull out the slide before I go. So we know that O16 is lighter and O17 is heavier. Okay. So let's say, let me just explain it this way first. So let's say there is a cloud, it's raining outside, okay, and that cloud is made up of what? Water, right? Water. So that water would have 16 and 18 both, right? Right now, it's raining, right? That water, because these are naturally existing isotopes of oxygen. So that water would have 16 and 18 both in some percentage. Now it's raining. Which isotope of oxygen would you expect to fall down first?
15.
Huh?
15.
18. 18, not 16. Why 16? Which is heavier? 18.
Okay.
तो जो भारी वो पहले गिरेगा.
So,
Right? It's mass dependent fractionation. Right? So for example, if you're distilling out something, you know, this distillation process, you know that, you know, something which has, you know, which boils up first goes, so similar, but not. So it's called, the process is called fractionation, and it's mass dependent fractionation. So if it's raining out and, you know, if I had an instrument and I could capture, which we can as atmospheric scientists, we can capture the water vapor. We can also, you know, collect rain. And I go and measure oxygen isotope ratios in both. You'd find O18 in the water that has fallen out is more. The more the rain, the more O18 gets fallen. So the ratio of O18 by O16 increases. So it's called the amount effect. So, you know, so now if we come back to the shells, let's say, these shells, so, you know, there's a lake. I have to take it out. So I need to actually tell you this before we go on to anything related to any of the proxies which have carbonates or water, and it's all about water, isn't it? We're talking about monsoons, we're talking about rainfall. So I'll just make it, you know, very simple. I'm not going into fractionation equations and models that we use. What I'll tell you is how, basically how you can, so, you know, really simple schematic. This is the lake. Clouds. It has some O18 and some O16. Okay? And this lake is basically, you know, it has runoff coming when it rains, right? So, you know, brings in a lot of, you know, soil. It's called sediments because it's being replaced. Soils are generally where they form in situ, where it's present. sediments are transported. So every rainfall season, or even without rainfall, dry winds also bring in some sediments that get deposited in the lake water body. So now you have these layers depositing, okay, every 5 years or whatever time it takes for a layer to deposit, right? Now this lake also has some ratio, right? Whatever water has gone in, because ultimately it's the water, and this is a part of the water vapor that is there. So whatever the amount of water vapor that is there, it would have some ratio, so there's probably more 18 or less 16, whatever. But there's some ratio of O18 and O16. The higher the rainfall, the more O18 falls. So the amount of rainfall is directly proportional to the isotope ratio. So by that I mean this O18 decreases, right? So O18 decreases. So this whole it's always measured relative to a standard. So right now we have an unknown vapor sample that we take, and we measure relative to a standard. And those standards are internationally calibrated. We know what the values are. So we always say, is it less or more than that? So is it depleted, this sample? Let's say it's some sample of water vapor. The sample is depleted or enriched. So if it is depleted, it would mean that this is less, right? This value is reduced, right? This fraction is reduced, matlab this is less. Why would this be less in this? Because it is rained out. See what I mean? I'm trying to just put it very simply.
Ma'am, they're talking about that
Water vapor. Just water vapor.
Yeah.
Nothing else. It's just water vapor isotopes. I am talking about this water mass, the cloud which is raining outside. I'm just talking about that. Okay. So what I did was I took a sample of that cloud, of whatever that vapor. So it's not, and it doesn't change कि बस एक बादल का एक है. It's rather uniform for a big, large geographic area. ठीक है? So, and this is an example that this monsoon front or whatever clouds or that have depression that have come in and just started to rain outside. If I sample sample that water vapor and measure it against a standard which itself has some ratio, usually it's zero. It's expressed in 0 per mil. Those of you who've done monsoon, so per mil is parts per thousand, like percent is per 100. Because the value is really small, these are very small quantities, abundance is really small, so that's why we've expressed as per mil. Now, and I can go in the formulas if you want. I can, take out the slides and teach it. But for now, I'm just, telling the physical significance of it. That if the amount of rainfall or the water that has fallen out is more, then more of this has fallen out, and this ratio essentially decreases, right? This is less, numerator kam ho gaya. So this ratio of this sample would be, so after the water has fallen out, I measure the water vapor, and you would see now this ratio is less, because most of the heavier isotope is fallen out. Okay? And okay? And this ratio, whatever has fallen out, is recorded in this, in the lake water, and in turn, and this, so this is now new water, which has some composition of O18, O16, and this oxygen is in turn taken by all the carbonate bearing shells. Here. This information, how much of the rainfall was there in terms of the isotope, gets recorded in these shells, whatever those छोटे-छोटे shells बने थे ना, उस टाइप वो shell में जाके record हो जाता है, and this is what is deposited layer by layer. We extract these shells, take it to the mass spec, dissolve them. What we need is the amount of oxygen and the ratios of oxygen, because that would have changed, right? So then we measure, or हर एक, so let's say अगर like you were saying हमने drill किया, बाद में let's say बहुत deposit हो गया and it kind of flattened out and this lake dried. I went and I drilled a hole, right, and brought this in the lab. This is top. Okay, this is upwards. this way. And then I splice it open. So you can see it open like that. Okay, and you would see all of these layers, different colors, different lithology, and all of them would have shells in it. I would pick these shells, dissolve them, take them on the mass spec, measure the isotopic composition for each of the layer. So, and this is depth, mind you, this is depth. So let's say this is about 2 meters of core. And then what I'll do is I'll plot del 18O. This is how it's represented because it's against the standard, and it's a formula minus standard divided by sample into 1000. But yeah, but that's that. And this is the depth. So this is top now, and this is 2 meters. Okay, oxygen isotope would have varied. Big spike. This is not the water vapor, this is the shell that I am measuring. Shells, dissolving carbonate, CaCO3, but ultimately oxygen is coming from that water. That water is recording what was released. You see? Okay. So, and there's other things that we can do, but oxygen isotope, very simply put, this is how it's done. Okay? So, and similarly, when you're talking about caves, and I was showing you, and then of course we date them, we date them using various methods. I want to date this layer, I want to date this layer, and what happened here, maybe a big rainfall event or a drying event, date this exactly, using various dates at various depths. Then we reconstruct an age model. It's usually a Bayesian age model because, with each of the measurement we have some errors associated, and you would want to propagate the error also while you propagate the exact measurement, right? So then we use the age model, and then for every centimeter we would have an age associated. So let's say this one goes up to 2000 years or 3000, whatever, 3000 years, and for every centimeter of measurement or every measurement we would have not a depth but an age. कि भाई इतने साल से इतने साल तक the oxygen isotope was such, so the precipitation, you can calibrate, so the precipitation would have been this. Okay? And it's a similar thing with speleothems. And with speleothem, it's just that instead of shells, you have actual carbonate mineral precipitating out of water. Okay? So, if you want, I can take one lecture on these proxies and the maths of it, or the physics of it, the fractionation processes, a little bit of dynamics also. But since I've kept it as a 300 level course where I'm just introducing what this is all about, so it is mostly like kahani, to sun lo kahani. Okay. All right. So similarly, we also make records out of speleothems, and so for example, this is oxygen isotope of, this is what I was showing, right, delta, and oxygen isotope, it's measured against this standard. This is Vienna PD belemnite. It's a big carbonate shell which they bought in Vienna in the International Atomic Agency, IAEA, Energy Atomic Agency. So that's where they do such standard measurements. They make standards and you can get it. You measure your sample against the standard and then plot the variations. You see huge variations, date them, put the depth, or because this is the spelothem, not a lake or an ocean sediment. You can plot them on age axis. What else? This is foraminifera, similar. So for this, they would have, because forams only live in oceans. You won't find foraminifera in lakes. So these shells are from oceans. So somewhere in the ocean, oxygen isotopes in each of the layer. So it looks like it's a continuous plot, but the measurements would have been slightly sporadic. But then of course they've done some propagation of errors to make a continuous record. But whatever it is, these are real measurements, and it goes back in time, really back in time, 600,000, really old. So, and those are actual atmospheric composition captured in the ice. Remember, ice was capturing air bubbles as it was forming. So those air bubbles were extracted. CO2 was measured there. Okay. This is sea surface temperature global stack. These are also made from, usually inferred from oxygen isotopes, and also the shells that we measured oxygen isotopes. We use various proxies like magnesium, calcium. Remember I told you about how calcium carbonate lattice might have some magnesium also incorporated, and that displacement reaction is a temperature dependent reaction. Higher the temperature, these animals or these organisms like to take more magnesium. So and when they again die and deposit, they've recorded whatever temperatures would have been in terms of taking the magnesium amount of magnesium that's present in the shells. So those calcium to magnesium or magnesium to calcium ratios can ultimately give you the temperature records. Those are all proxies of temperature. So, if you look at the textbook that I've given, it's given in that. So, read the book. Corals, we've talked a little bit on corals. Carbonate naturally exists as aragonite and calcite. Corals essentially, aragonite is a metastable mineral, and calcite is rather stable. So corals are usually made of aragonitic carbonate, and very similar to speleothems actually. What this person is doing is basically diving, and I think this comes from the Great Barrier Reef, Australia, where there are such coral available. These corals are very susceptible to changes in pH of ocean water. So you might have heard of ocean acidification. Yeah, है ना, high CO2 बढ़ रहा है, so CO2 के कारण acidification हो रहा है. They get bleach out, so the symbiotic relationship that they have with the algae, so they just get bleached, so they lose their color. Otherwise, they are very colorful. How many of you have seen any coral? Videos. देखे होंगे ना, colorful. They're very colorful. So these they so if there is a change in pH, when I say change in pH, it means CO2 concentration would have changed. Acid तो कोई डाल नहीं देगा जाके वहाँ पर. So that slight CO2 change in concentration would change, because CO2 is absorbed on the surface of ocean, and these live on surface of ocean. They need sunlight to grow, right? So they are very susceptible to that. They're also susceptible to temperature changes. So if it's really warming surface ocean, they would really, they would be hiatus. So what we usually do, and then the deposition of coral carbonate is very similar to spelothem, like I was saying. Usually what they do is they drill a core like this, do CT scan, and you see all these layers. You can then micro drill powders of carbonate essentially, and do a similar exercise of measuring oxygen isotopes, of measuring, similarly in this case strontium calcium, the way strontium is incorporated in calcium carbonate, or these corals, the way they form, it's dependent on the temperature. So strontium calcium in this case is a temperature proxy. So in marine, but again they don't live so long. So if you really want short-term high resolution data, and they form very quickly. So so for example, between these 5 years, we have several measurements as compared to the other record that I was showing. 100,000 of years. This one is very high resolution, but the shortcoming of this kind of work is that it doesn't go too long. So for example, if I just want to know after industrial revolution what has happened, I would go to a coral. I would go to corals wherever there are corals, and drill and do something like this. Okay. So we've talked about tree rings already. This is temperate. This is mostly done in temperate sort of trees. Not all the trees have such tree rings. Not all the trees grow for that long a period to be used for this kind of work. The thicker the tree ring reflects, mostly precipitation, but also the kind of temperatures that would have been. So they basically measure tree rings and the width of tree rings to infer climate of past seasons. So, for example, this very thin ring weight tells you dry season as opposed to the thicker one, which is telling about the rainy season. So, you know, it was last time when I was showing this, there was one girl who asked me, तो मैम कितने पेड़ काटते होंगे इस टाइप का काम करने के लिए? Valid question. Because I don't do tree rings, so I thought, हाँ मैंने तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं. I went and looked into how do they do this. I don't do tree rings. That's like I said, like it's written here. It's mostly a mid latitude or higher altitude sort of study. That's where such trees grow. So in India, there's some work being done in northwestern Himalayas. So the trees that grow at those altitude, but not. तो कैसे करते होंगे? I had to look it up. सोचो सोचो you don't want to cut the tree, but you also want to see the thing with. Any guesses? नहीं.
We peel off the stem.
Peel off. तो बाहर का कैसे पता चलेगा? अंदर के कैसे पता चलेगा? नहीं, लेकिन बाहर तो बस बाहर ही का पता चलेगा ना. Like if you peel off the stem, so you'll just get the outer layer.
You can do it separately, right?
हाँ तो फिर अंदर तक पहुँचने के लिए you'll have to basically cut the tree.
Initial layers.
तो initially हमें पूरा history चाहिए ना. You want a long record. What they do is you can actually look it up, but then so I was thinking maybe they slice like a cake थोड़ा सा तो rings मिल जाएंगी, है ना? But it's actually some drilling thing, very thin drilling equipment that they put. So drills till inside, and it's just a hole that doesn't sort of affect the big trees in any sense. That's how they do it. Anyway, just a trivia, but it was very interesting when the girl asked, and I did not know. Okay. So these trees, for example, they do not grow for that long a period. If you want to really know the long-term natural, climate variability, they're rather short-term. There are trees which are known to have grown for 2,000 years, really big trunks. So those trees have been used, but they are giving very high resolution information in terms of seasons, and which is what we want, right? We want measurement for each season. So for that, these trees are used. So for the last 2,000 years, and this is one example that has been reconstructed using tree rings, and you can see we are here in terms of the temperature. So these are temperature anomalies with respect to the pre-industrial period, I think. So we are way above the pre-industrial period right now. But all of these temperatures have been reconstructed from the tree rings, and you can see how good a resolution these are. So these very well match the instrumental record that we have. So instrumental record, we measure one season में 1-2 measurements होते हैं यहाँ पर मौसम विभाग Indian Meteorological Department में, or they have cumulative measurements कई करते हैं, but they give an average value for this season it rained this much. So this can very well compare or join in with these. So for example, we might have rainfall. This is temperature. We might have temperature record actual measurements till 1900 that goes back to 1900, and that's how we know that it's just warmed. But what has happened in the past, if we take other archives, it might not be that high resolution. It might be for these many years we might just have 1 point, for these many years might be, so it would rather be a straight line then. But with these tree rings, that's the beauty of this archive, that they actually connect the current observation, because this whole paleoclimate work is the idea of this is, and it's evolving with every study, and each year they want to bring it and match it with the instrumental record so that we can take the instrumental record backwards rather than just 2 points here and here. So they also want to match the resolution. So in that sense, tree-ring really connects the observational record to the past. Okay. So now we've talked about a lot of proxies. One question is, whatever measurements that we were doing in that layers of oxygen or whatever, how do we know that measurement is what or whatever measurement that we did in terms of oxygen isotope, and it you can convert it into amount of precipitation. How do you know that precipitation was falling at whatever time? Like, how do you put an age to those measurements? So that brings you to dating of these, not the dating, but dating, radiocarbon dating, हंसी आ रही है सबको, ठीक है? So these kind of dating. So various ways. Most common carbon dating might have heard. So now radiocarbon decay, right? So this is what I do. This is what a lot of people do for at least at least for the, because I don't work in really long time scales. I'm more towards present, so last 5,000 years. But then for me this is good enough, because the half-life of, remember half-life 7th 8th mein padha tha, all that. So because of that it's only useful till, because then it becomes cannot be measured. So the decay is such that it can only be used for ages 50,000 years. Okay, so radiocarbon date is is a very common way of dating materials. But the key thing for this to do this is that whatever we are dating, it should have कार्बन होना चाहिए, राइट? अदरवाइज डेट कैसे करोगे? सो अगर हम लेक सेडिमेंट में, कोई तो कार्बन होना चाहिए. कार्बन कैसे होगा? कुछ ऑर्गेनिक मैटर पड़ा हो पुराने जमाने का. शेल्स, डू दे हैव कार्बन? CaCO3, यू कैन डेट शेल्स. तो जिसका आप ऑक्सीजन आइसोटोप मेजर कर रहे हो प्रेसिपिटेशन कैलिब्रेट करने के लिए, उसी को आप डेट भी कर दो तो एग्जैक्ट डेट पता चल जाएगी उसी का, राइट? So C, and that C again has C14, C13, C12, right? Carbon is also C12, C13, C14, right? 14 is the radioactive one, 12 and 13. इतनी हंसी क्यों आ रही है? हमें भी बताओ, हम भी हंसे? नहीं, क्यों सब हंसना चाहते हैं? सब दुखी हैं? कुछ ना कुछ लेके. ठीक है. So C12, C13, C14. C14 is used for dating. C12 and C13 also is a proxy for productivity, depending on again it's but oxygen was more important, so I talked about it. I might not take carbon proxy, but then for dating definitely C14. We need to have carbon, anything that contains carbon, be it shells, be it organic matter, anything. Okay. With the speleothems that I was talking, uranium, thorium and uranium lead, this kind of dating. So most of the carbonate rocks, they like corals, speleothem, stalagmites, like those cave records, all of them can be dated by uranium and thorium. They have naturally, from when the water comes in from the soil and trickles down, and in this caves they bring in some of these and then these get deposited in the carbonate in between, and you can measure these. These are really good because in this case, if I measure carbon, the analytical uncertainty sometimes is of decades. So if I'm measuring, let's say 5,780, my age is 5,000 years, there is plus minus 30 years or plus minus 40 years error in measurement. But in this case, these are really precise, that 1 year or seasonal. So for speleothem, these are really good, and then rocks, basalts are dated by these. So really old. So I'll start with, I think next class is we'll talk about really million years kind of thing. How would we know that the continent were placed like this? Is through these kind of dating they date basalt. Basalt is what the ocean, crust, granite, basalt, these rocks make the ocean land basically where you stand, right? Those rocks. So those rocks are dated by these potassium argon. Again, this list is not exhaustive. There are other ways that you can date them, but Rudiman, that book has this list, so I just took it directly. Okay, for example, granites, you can use rubidium strontium ratios. So, yeah, you don't have to learn these numbers. Okay, it's just a way to tell you that most important is carbon, because I'll be mostly talking in detail about recent past, not really far back. So you don't need to mug up these numbers. Yeah, and this is one way that we can also that people do use. So, for example, counting layers. If we know annually one layer is being, you can just observe how many layers. So you can calibrate it with modern time, and then you say, okay, in 1 year, how many layers deposit, and then you can go back in time. है ना? So this is also one method that people use. I don't use, but very common. And there's also something called tuning of records that we have. So the time series that we get after all the analysis and everything, you also tune it. So right. So when I was I've not talked about Milankovitch cycles yet, and I'll talk about that when we talk about the orbital variation. But we've talked a little bit on how Earth's tilt changes, right? Earth's tilt is not always, just that. It changes from 24.5 to 22.5. And have I talked about this? No? Okay, so at some so the way these lectures are arranged is from next class onwards, I'm starting to talk about really when the Earth formed and the continents were all not in place, and from there on to orbital scale times, and we call them orbital because Earth's geometry of how it is rotating or going around the sun changes. So Earth goes around the sun, right? Right, in a complete circle, huh? Elliptical. And how do you define ellipse? There is always an eccentricity. Major axis by E, right? Eccentricity. So that ellipse, eccentricity of the Earth's ellipse and the way it goes around the sun, that changes. Would you believe it? It changes. It doesn't become a circle, but then that slight change in eccentricity, that changes. But here I'm talking about really long term, like it won't change in 10 years, 20 years. I'm talking about 100,000 years. Okay, so after every 100,000 years, the eccentricity would. So there's a cyclicity. It's not like it's here and it's it. It goes on, every 100,000 years cycle. Okay, so the long-term climate change, when you will talk about and you will reconstruct, you will see that the astronomical measurements. Now this is all astrophysics, right? How would I know? Right, so astronomical measurements. So this was Milankovitch was an astrophysicist, Serbian astrophysicist, who was looking at the stars and everything, and then he found out, Earth's orbit actually changes, and then he talked about how eccentricity of the elliptical path of Earth that goes around the sun changes. That 100,000 years of cycle, the way it changes, either it's too eccentric or less. E is either very little, less or high. That changes the amount of radiation that the Earth receives. So sun is in the middle. If it's too elliptical, it would get different amount of radiation. If it is less, it would receive a different some other insulation. That insulation changes the Earth's climate. So the long-term ice ages, non-ice ages period, the movies that come, Itna Sara, North America was all glaciated and all that, that was because of this. It has happened. It was because of the Earth's orbital geometry. So in terms of the orbital geometry, when I get to that, there are 3 parts. So so it's actually I'm talking about this here, that the astronomical calculations sometimes. So I reconstruct climate, oxygen isotope, really long-term climate, and you see some cyclicity. And then when you compare the and in fact this Milankovic, this Serbian astrophysicist, actually compared that with the orbital cycle, and he was like, whoa, it matches completely. So there is some mechanistic correlation that so, and that's how they found out that the amount of insolation or sun radiation that we get if this orbital geometry changes is different, and which is what causes the long-term natural variability in Earth's climate. Okay, so by this way also you can attach an age to apart from these measurements, this is also used for tuning or long-term records. Okay. So just this slide, actually these slides last couple of slides were made for something else, but I've still put in that this is a field. What I do is all that, and also this little bit, but this is mostly done by other people who do numerical modeling, and then they use these tools to simulate. But this is all a part of paleoclimatology. It has implication on what sort of policies. So, for example, the next decade is very important, or for our government, they would want to know what is the decadal changes pattern like, right? So they would use such studies. Climate science in general, we would want to know how the climate has changed, how is the Earth, evolved over time. And archaeology, people working in the recent past, ancient societies, kingdoms, it was not just always कि भाई उन्होंने attack कर दिया इसलिए हम छोड़ दिए, ऐसा नहीं होता है. There would have been some climate stress, and how would the archaeologists know they referred to the paleoclimate records. They इस समय ऐसा climate था, and probably these populations were in some sort of climate stress, or vegetation नहीं उगा पा रहे थे. In India, for example, I talk about Harappa civilization. Monsoon was weakening, and which is why they could not cope. It took them 100 years to to try different kind of varieties of crops, but could not. So they started moving out. They left their houses. They started moving out, and this kind of migration of societies, civilization, sometimes is driven by changes in climate, be it anthropogenic or natural. So all of this has implications for a lot of disciplines and also society. So yeah, these tools just for something else, but I've still uploaded these slides. So go through them, and Tuesday. Did you receive the email? Yes. An email? So that's your email ID. Okay. So so Tuesday is a quiz. Syllabus is until what I've taught. So lecture 1 and lecture 2. Okay. And then one more. So then, because first week of September we are doing the assignment presentation, right? And then your majors start from 12. Minor. है ना? So yeah, so I'll complete one more lecture before.
मैम आप गूगल स्प्रेडशीट अपलोड कर दो.
अपलोड कर दिया?
गूगल स्प्रेडशीट.
हाँ, स्प्रेडशीट अपलोड कर दिया Moodle पे. Did you see spreadsheet? हाँ, it's uploaded. So write your name. Write your name. हाँ, और क्या? Unless you have.
है क्या? अभी कहाँ जा रहा है? उसका ट्यूब कहाँ से आ रहा है? कंप्लीट हो चुका है। सब मैथ्स